welcome to my unboxing and review of the HIYA Toys Godzilla 2001 or GMK figure. First, we're just going to take a nice look at the box for this figure. It's a pretty simple box, but I really like it, and I think the artwork on the front is really cool. I like the lights around Godzilla and this cool pose he's in. It makes him look really aggressive, and I quite like it. The back of the box is quite simple. It's just kind of got a photo of him and the logo from the film and some other information. So this is not a Super 7 type box that has a lot of artwork and stuff, but it's still pretty nice and it gets the job across. And then unboxing the guy was actually pretty simple. He was pretty much in a bag, and then there was just the two hand accessories, so it didn't take too long to unbox him. So now that we have this guy out of the box, it's time to take a look at him, and I'll give you my thoughts. I just want to say a couple things. First off, if you can't tell already, this figure is really nice in terms of its sculpt. I have to say, really, obviously he's not perfect in many ways, I'll get to those, but I would say like this guy, it looks like GMK Godzilla. This is GMK Godzilla. I've seen a lot of reviews that are like, it looks just like the suit. If I do this, I think with his mouth open, like he looks like just like out of the poster or like images from the movie. In some ways, they've done a fantastic job of nailing the sculpt. That's one of the best things about this figure, is it is unmistakably GMK Godzilla from the movie. Obviously, it's not super, in some aspects, it's not perfect, but it's quite good. I would definitely say, compared to like NECA or Bandai Movie Monster versions, this is more suit accurate. And there's some things I really like. I love that, if you know GMK Godzilla, now I'm not trying to body shame him when I say this, but he's got this nice big belly, this nice big bear belly, and they managed to capture that here. So what I do like about this figure is they managed to capture Godzilla 2001's huge feet, which is something I really like about the design. These big old clompers that are really like aggressive. But also what they captured really well, and something I like a lot about the GMK design, is his dorsal plates. I really like them. You know, obviously I'm a big fan of the Millennium dorsal plates that are very jagged and aggressive and very spiky. But I really like the GMK dorsal plates because they're kind of like, they went back to the 54 design, but like modernized them, I guess. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but they're really cool looking. So they have this like modern but classic appearance to them that I think looks really cool, and they capture that really well with this figure. And also the plastic they use for the dorsal plates, it's more stiff, but it's not very brittle either, but it is more stiff than like what you might be used to on a lot of figures where they just make the dorsal plates like really soft and rubbery. Now here they're quite stiff, but again, not brittle. And one thing I also really like about this figure is that they did a really nice job with painting the eyes. I was trying to make it obvious here, but on a lot of GMK figures, they just paint his eyes like just a blank white. But on this figure, hopefully you can tell, but they've kind of done this nice job of giving his eyes this like opaque, kind of glossy look. Because if you look at the suit, his eyes aren't just like plain white. Like there is like an actual form to it. It's not just all pure white. Paint job does a really good job of capturing that. They give his eyes a bit more definition, a bit more shape, rather than just painting it like flat white. And I really appreciate that attention to detail, because that's something that, like I said, a lot of, I think GMK figures kind of miss, that his eyes aren't just pure white. The only real gripe I have with this figure's sculpt is really like under his, I guess, neck or chin. He has this little bump. I'm not sure if that was designed so like his jaw wouldn't like would open up to a certain amount, but like from the profile it looks a bit silly. From the front he looks great, but from the profile I see that little bump under there and it's kind of a bit off-putting, which is a pity because from other angles he looks amazing, but just that little bump under his neck, it kind of throws me off a little bit. So I think in general the sculpt job is really well done. I think some would argue maybe like the HIYA Toys, the prototype was a bit more accurate, or maybe like the SH Monster Arts is better. I don't have the SH Monster Arts, but honestly I don't really care. I think this figure is a fantastic, like, definitive, this is GMK Godzilla, no doubt about it. And again, you know, one could say, oh, the SH Monster Arts is better. You know what, if that's what you want and you want to pay for that in that price range, go for it. But I think this figure, the quality of the figure, he's not like not super heavy, but he's not super light either. It's a nice, good mix. It's like a nice soft plastic, but he doesn't feel like super hard plastic either. Like it's a nice soft plastic. And this is my first HIYA Toys figure. Maybe this is just something that like all of them are like this, so this is all new to me. But let's move on to articulation, because I think that's probably important for many of us, right? Like, why would you get this figure if not for the articulation? Because if you just wanted something that looked like GMK Godzilla just for the sculpt, you'd probably get like an X Plus statue. I think one thing I really like about the articulation, that's something I've noticed that I don't see this often in other Godzilla figures, is the neck articulation is super cool. And I don't know if they did this for GMK Godzilla, but like you can really stick his head up. So he does that shot where he's like roaring in the air, but you can also like point him down. So you can make it look like he's firing his beam. So the neck articulation is amazing. And we have like, I don't even know how many points of articulation in the neck. It's insane. Arm articulation. We've got the elbows, at the shoulders, at the chest. I don't know, it's a little stiff, but at the chest he does. So you can kind of move him around a bit. And then the legs, this is pretty, this feels pretty smooth in the movement. You can really move his feet around. Compared to my recent Super 7 figure of the Space Godzilla that had such stiff legs. Honestly, I've reviewed a lot of figures at this point, and like oftentimes the articulation at first is really stiff. I think especially on the Super 7 figures. But I will say here, straight out of the box, the articulation is really like smooth. And he has many, many points of articulation. Tail. What's nice about the tail, it feels like a nice soft plastic, so I don't feel like I'm going to break this guy. It doesn't feel like super brittle. It's pretty soft but firm. I was just remembering like the NECA figures, they're quite, even to this day, the ones I have, and I've been using them for years, their articulation is still quite stiff, especially in the tail. So I would say if you want a figure for articulation wise, this is a really good figure because honestly, the articulation feels quite smooth. I'm not going to say this is the best GMK figure that you can possibly get. So I would say if you don't have a GMK figure in your collection and you like GMK Godzilla, you should definitely get this one if it's within your price range, because it's the quality of the figure, the articulation, the sculpt, the paint job. It looks like GMK Godzilla. So I think it's definitely a good addition to the collection. So he comes with these two little like more claw-like hands. So I guess I can see if I can swap them out. I'm used to the Super 7 figures that have so many parts and pieces and a swappable head. And it's so nice to see a figure that has mouth articulation. I would really love for HIYA Toys to do a GMK Ghidorah. That would be amazing. I definitely would love to have that. Anyway, but let me see if I can swap out the hands and let me see if I can scale them up with some other figures for reference. So I tried to swap out the hands, but like it was quite difficult for me. So I put the original hands on. Plus I kind of like the original hands anyway more. What I did do is I brought in some other figures here so you guys could get a sense of scale. We have here my NECA Godzilla Tokyo SOS figure. You can kind of tell though the big difference, like NECA used a much more matte plastic or some kind of paint. HIYA Toys used much more of like a shiny plastic. I think the NECA figure is also much heavier, and you can kind of see like the scale is actually pretty similar. It's not totally off, to be honest. Now, I think if I remember right, these two are actually pretty similar in height in canon. All of the Millennium Godzillas are actually fairly like within the same one, except Final Wars. Final Wars is taller, but I think the other ones are like actually all within the same height range, if I remember right. And then the other one I wanted to bring in for a comparison was Bandai Movie Monsters Gamera 99, just because this is also a Kaneko Shusuke Kaneko Kaiju, right? Obviously, he did the Gamera trilogy from the 90s before he did GMK. So, you know, I just wanted to bring this in for fun. Obviously, this Gamera figure is really slouched over, so he looks shorter. You know, here you have it like Kaneko's Godzilla versus his Gamera, you know. I'd say he's quite good in scale with the NECA and the Bandai Movie Monster figures. So he would scale pretty well with them. With the GMK figures, since Bandai has like I think they have a GMK Ghidorah, but I think that one's quite short, so I think he probably wouldn't scale very well. I think the best solution is that HIYA Toys has to put out a GMK Ghidorah. I think that would be the best solution because, and they can do King Ghidorah very well. They've done King Ghidorah Monsterverse. They've done the 1991 King Ghidorah, which everyone says is an amazing figure. And from what I've seen, it's a really good looking figure. So if HIYA Toys does a GMK Ghidorah, I think that'd be amazing. But yeah, conclusion, this is a really nice GMK Godzilla. For the value of what you get for the price, the articulation, the sculpt, I think this figure is definitely a definitive GMK figure to have. If you don't have GMK Godzilla in your collection and you really like him, I would pick this one up. If you maybe like already have GMK Godzilla in your collection and you're not sure about getting this one, there is another variant of this one, I believe, where the dorsal fins are blue. This is a really nice figure. I'm very happy to have him in my collection because GMK Godzilla is actually really nice. I have a soft spot for the Millennium Era Godzillas. Pretty much grew up on them. For me, I really love the suits from that era, and I'm really happy to have GMK Godzilla in my collection. So he's going to look really nice on my shelf, and also he might be appearing in some projects in the future. I'm very excited about that as well. That's it for my review of the HIYA Toys GMK Godzilla 2001 figure. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts were on this figure. If you have this figure, what do you think of it? And what else would you like to see from HIYA Toys? Are you like me? Do you want to see GMK Ghidorah? Do you want to see more Showa stuff? Let me know. I'd love to read your comments. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!